Around the world, venues have become places where thousands of people congregate to seek the enjoyment of sports and entertainment, but how often do we think about the economical aspects of the places where we spend money on seating, food, merchandise, and hospitality at the highest standard? Hardly ever, right? Well, that can be both a good and bad thing. In recent years, cities and sports teams have begun to invest billions of dollars in building new and improved venues for all sports. If you're a longtime watcher of the channel, you may have heard me say on a few occasions that the average lifespan for stadiums is about 30 years. For certain stadiums, they have hit the 30-year mark and are set to be replaced. When you think about what the steps are into building a new stadium, we consider funding, environmental sustainability, and revenue generation post-construction, all of which aligns with why the next sporting venue of the future can come to a city near you. In today's installment of Stadium Safari, we do a deep dive on why new stadiums will cost billions to build by 2030. If you are new to the channel, make sure to hit the like button for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to show your support and be on the lookout for future videos. Alright, so let's just say that you struck it rich as the founder and CEO of a company that became a member of the Fortune 500 overnight and enjoy watching sports when you're not walking the floors of your corporate office. You need to decide where to put your hard-earned funds that you can use to increase profits or find ways to get any tax benefits as a business owner. So you create an LLC or limited liability company, get together with close friends or business partners, and you go all in and purchase a team sports franchise. You see that the franchise has a future with you in charge. One way that you can build equity for the long run is by building a new stadium for your team to call home. The fans will love you more, players will be happy with the new digs, employee satisfaction increases, and you hope the new construction will pay off with increased revenue. The overall goal is to make the team's value more than what you bought it for. However, not everyone in your city may be a sports fan, and don't feel that a new stadium will help the city. So how do most owners get away with building one anyway? There are two ways that team owners receive funding for a stadium project. Owners either take the path of privately funded projects or publicly funded projects. In this day and age, most stadiums are publicly funded, with examples such as Yankee Stadium in New York, Soldier Field in Chicago, and even Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. This means that if a new project were to be publicly funded, the local or state government would pay out of pocket for the construction cost through the tax dollars that are made from people who live and work in the specified location. There are only a few cases where a privately funded project was done: SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles and MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, where the city can receive tax breaks due to not paying for the project out of pocket. In some cases, cities fear owners having stadiums be privately funded to prevent land power that the owner can have. Fortunately, only a handful of owners go down that route. Ways for team owners to receive public funding is by crying poor to take pity from taxpayers and politicians alike. Owners find loopholes by trading off their star player, lowering ticket prices for fans, and even threatening to move the team to a new city, where those city officials are willing to build them a new stadium. When this works, renderings are drawn up. An example of this is Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. When Jones bought the Cowboys in 1989 for $140 million, which is $292.5 million today when calculating inflation, the team played at the old Texas Stadium in the Dallas suburb of Irving. Around the mid-2000s, Jones wanted to build the current AT&T Stadium in Arlington. This involved him and his ownership group to plead with Arlington residents to increase the city's sales tax, occupancy tax, and car rental tax to help alleviate most of the construction costs, which was estimated at $650 million, but eventually increased to $1.15 billion, making Jerry's World one of the most expensive sports venues ever built at the time. Arlington residents still didn't seem to care because you know how much they love their Cowboys. Jerry Jones's investment would eventually pay off, so if you were to buy the Cowboys today, you would be looking at a $6.5 billion price tag. AT&T Stadium is the major revenue stream for the Cowboys, as in its first year, the team made $420 million from the stadium, doubling the team's median revenue rate from their tenure at the old Texas Stadium. The team's revenue would increase yearly due to how much people pay for personal seating licenses and executive suites, which can range between $150,000 to $900,000. Also, using business relations with companies who are willing to put their name on the stadium to account for a naming rights fee, which most of the time brings in the most money for the stadium itself, due to the price companies are willing to pay to have their name mentioned every time you tune into Fox on Sundays in the fall. We can see by the numbers alone, Jerry Jones was able to undervalue his team by having citizens, who are most likely fans, pay more in taxes and continue to pump money into the stadium long past its grand opening. This is how most publicly funded projects turn out, when owners use the loyalty of the fan base to get what they want out of a stadium project. This is worth doing depending on how you look at it from the perspective of an owner or taxpayer, but most stadium projects can scar the environmental impact of a city and a neighborhood. If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit the like button for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to show your support and be on the lookout for future videos. As the world becomes more aware of the environmental changes that are happening, the evolution of billion-dollar stadium projects correlates to new constructions becoming environmentally friendly. One of the myths when you hear about a new venue being built is due to the amount of money owners have, and that it's easy to buy an open plot of land and build a stadium. Just like the old saying that money doesn't grow on trees, sports stadiums don't sprout from the ground. No pun intended. Aside from funding, a stadium project has to go through a process of an environmental evaluation. If city officials don't feel that a stadium is environmentally suitable for its preferred location, then approval for a project can be prolonged. The environmental factors of a stadium can be congestion, pollution, excess traffic, and carbon emissions. If you compare a sports stadium from the previous century, you can tell that the emphasis was on people driving to the games, with a stadium being located on the outskirts with access to the interstate. Towards the turn of the century, stadium projects became more integrated with the downtown area of a city, which encouraged fans to take public transportation to games rather than drive due to the lack of parking spaces around the venue that was done by design. An example of this would be Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington, the home arena for the Seattle Kraken of the NHL and the Seattle Storm of the WNBA, with the Seattle University Redhawks men's basketball team as part-time tenants. Even though the arena opened back in 1962 as a venue for the World's Fair, it was a part of the wave of arenas going for the downtown scenery. Simultaneously, the Seattle Space Needle was built adjacent to the arena, which is Seattle's most famous landmark. Today, the neighborhood for both Climate Pledge Arena and the Space Needle is called Seattle Center, an entertainment-focused area with museums, shops, and small-sized entertainment venues, all within walking distance of each other. Over time, businesses and apartment complexes were built around the area, which revived the north end of downtown Seattle. As for Climate Pledge Arena, it plans to live up to its name to combat the perspectives of environmental conflicts with sporting venues. From 2018 to 2021, $1.15 billion was put towards a redevelopment project to make the arena environmentally friendly. Technically, the stadium was bought by Amazon in 2020 as a part of the company's initiative to combat climate change. So yeah, we can say that Amazon owns a sports venue. The redevelopment project will integrate an all-electric system through stadium operations with off-site solar panels to power stadium electricity, becoming the first sports venue to be plastic-free by 2024, and even making the ice for Kraken games by reusing Seattle's rainwater that is filled into a 15,000-gallon cistern. Heck, even the Zamboni is electric. To touch back on the emphasis of public transportation, the arena is linked to Seattle's monorail line and light rail line. Seattle is setting the example for where most teams should think about when drawing up their new stadium projects. Of course, we have to accept the fact that things like traffic, congestion, and pollution is inevitable when living in big cities, especially with sporting venues in the heart of it all. But team owners are beginning to realize what the people want with the sign of the times as they begin to understand who the 21st century sports fan is. The bottom line for these new stadiums, however, is to make sure that profits are increased along with the value of the franchise. As a reminder, don't forget to hit the like button for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to show your support and be on the lookout for future videos. Before we touch on the topic of the payoff of billion-dollar sports venues, we'll need to address the elephant in the room on the state of money. As we all know, we are seeing a spike in the inflation rate in today's economy. The value of the dollar is becoming devastatingly worthless while prices on necessary goods increase. When you think of team owners and their grand plans to build new stadiums, they deal with the burden of inflation as well when evaluating construction costs. This becomes the overall reason why new stadium projects will cost billions down the line with a capital B. However, this doesn't affect the owners in the long term because stadiums are a place of business. And what is the goal of every business? To make that moolah. For every dollar that is made from ticket sales, concessions, naming rights, and sponsorship signage within the stadium, the money is allocated to the team's budget, which is used to sign star players, offer more amenities for fans, and pay team employees better salaries. After expenses, a portion of that revenue is pocketed by owners or used in some cases as collateral to pay off any debts owed. In other words, team owners pay rent to the city to keep their team as a tenant in the venue. This is only in the case if a stadium project was publicly funded. On average, a stadium can make about $145 million in revenue, but a portion of that money doesn't go back into the community. A city's return on investment with a new stadium isn't based on how much money is made in the stadium, but more on the money made on the foot traffic that the stadium brings. Going into Super Bowl 56, which took place at SoFi Stadium this year, the Los Angeles metropolitan area was expected to make close to $500 million from the game, with $22 million in taxes. The money made from Super Bowl weekend will be allocated to hotels, restaurants, bars, and other local businesses, which benefited them as some of these businesses were still in recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. If you are someone who sees that a new stadium can't bring value to your city, think about a scenario if the team in your city decides to move. The situation of a team leaving can be more costly to a city because of the number of jobs sports venues offer. People that work in stadiums are paid to scan tickets at the turnstile, work security in the concourses and seating areas, serve food and beverages at concession stands, and are the cleanup crew for the garbage left behind from the thousands of fans who bought a ticket and food to go watch a game, all of which is repeated game after game. A lot of these jobs are important to people, and if a team moves, those stadium jobs go with them. It is a hit or miss if a new stadium is a good investment for a team and a city. Most owners take the conservative route and remodel their current stadiums, but even those projects can cost billions too. Looking at the big picture of what the stadium landscape will look like in the future all comes down to who will benefit from the stadium. It becomes a touchy subject when sports teams and local or state governments collide on stadium projects due to high risk, high reward mentality. Overall, as lovers of sports, it is wise to understand that sports teams are just another business in a city that wants to achieve the same goal as any other business: selling a product, promoting their platform, and making the moolah. This concludes today's installment of Stadium Safari. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell to be on the lookout for future videos, and let me know what stadiums you want to see next. Thank you for watching, and remember, teams tell the stories, the stadiums illustrate them.